In the ongoing saga of this past summer's Brexit, one item that has been receiving more attention lately is the decline of the British pound. In this week's U.S. Bank Economic 360, we look at the falling currency and what it means for the global economy. U.S. Bank Vice President and Senior Portfolio Manager Mike Denneman joins Business Watch producer Kelly Leon in the studio. Mike and Kelly.
Thanks, Peg. Thanks for being here, Mike.
Good morning.
Love the Brexit,
right.
as you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Brexit is not good for the pound.
No, it hasn't been at all. And reason being is that the Brexit is expected to be a tough row to hoe for the British economy going forward. And, well, there's many factors that go into how currencies fluctuate, but a very important one is how healthy is your nation's economy. So we can kind of make a little bit of a stock market analogy and consider that a currency in many ways is like the stock price of a nation's economy. So if we think about how stock prices react, if you have a corporation that's doing very well, you're growing, you're earning lots of profits, your stock price is probably rising. On the other hand, if your corporation is struggling, if you're losing money, oftentimes we see that stock price falling. So the same can be said in a very general sense about economies and currencies. So if your national economy is booming, it's growing by leaps and bounds, your currency is probably rising. Conversely, if you've got an economy that's really struggling, you're going to have your currency probably heading the other direction. So just to extrapolate that, again, if Brexit is expected to be this significant negative impact on the British economy, that expectation is what's been pushing down the value of the pound.
So what does this mean for us here in the U.S.?
Well, it has had an immediate impact on the rate of exchange between the British pound and the U.S. dollar. For many, many years, that's been skewed heavily in favor of the pound. Most recently, coming out of the financial crisis, the British economy was considered far stronger than the U.S. economy, so the pound had been rising against the dollar to the point where, as recently as 2014, it was trading at $1.70 for each pound, which, as far as currency goes, that's a huge disparity. More recently, this past summer, it was still at $1.50 per pound, better, but still not great. And then all of a sudden, boom, we had the Brexit and the pound went into a free fall. So currently we're at roughly $1.20 per pound. So to put that in perspective, that's the lowest the exchange rate has been in decades. So just a huge downward move for the pound. And so we talk about who does that impact? Well, right off the bat, a big beneficiary would be Americans traveling to Britain. And anyone who's gone to London in the last few years would tell you that the cost of goods and services in Britain quite a bit higher than what they are in the States. So, silly as that sounds, Americans going on vacation get a big boost from Brexit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who would think? But believe it or not, that also points to some silver linings for Britain because their currency has been falling.
But talk about that. What kind of silver linings?
Well, just to stay on the travel topic, that's a big one. If you have a country that is an important tourist destination, obviously Britain would be one of those. The lower currency makes it more appealing to foreigners to visit. So all those extra visitors, that in turn helps the economy. But maybe even more important is that economists have long recognized that there is a relationship between falling currencies and rising exports. So think about that. If goods cost less, what you're producing in your country now is more appealing to everyone else on the global market. Say you and I are going to buy some heavy machinery. And we can get that anywhere in the global market, the US, China, Japan, Britain, of course. Well, if the pound is falling, all of a sudden, British heavy machinery looks a lot cheaper than it did just a few years ago. So if those exports are rising, that's economic boost right there. Industrial production rises. So all things considered, I'm sure they'd rather have the pound moving in the opposite direction, but the lower pound isn't necessarily all bad news.
Yeah, you take the good where you can find it. And this will be good news to Bengals fans that are traveling to London in just a couple weeks
without
with the team. So
come home with some extra souvenirs.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as always, thanks for enlightening us, and I'm sure we'll talk more about the Brexit. This issue is not going away.
It's the gift that keeps on giving.
That's right.